telling a little boy, who I love more than anything, who happens to be my son, and who's from New Orleans.
For more than a decade, Sandra Bullock kept her adopted son completely hidden from Hollywood. But when 16-year-old Louis suddenly appeared beside her in 2026, fans could barely recognize him. Taller than Sandra, quiet, and almost unrecognizable, he no longer looked like the little boy the world once saw in rare photos. But what truly caught attention was something else entirely. Because after losing the man Louis saw as his father, Sandra has now admitted there's one fear about her son that never leaves her mind, a disturbing thought that keeps her awake at night, and it's far darker than fans ever realized. The adoption Sandra Bullock hid from Hollywood. By the spring of 2010, Sandra Bullock was on top of the world. She had just won an Academy Award for Best Actress. She was coming off the massive success of The Proposal, a romantic comedy that had grossed more than $300 million worldwide. She was, by almost every measure, the most bankable female lead in Hollywood. But behind the red carpets and the acceptance speeches, something else was happening, something no one in the media knew about. Sandra Bullock had become a mother. She had adopted a baby boy from New Orleans, and she had managed to keep the entire process a secret from the public for months. The adoption was a story of love and patience and careful planning, but the man who had stood beside her through it all would soon become the source of the deepest pain she had ever known. The year leading up to the Oscar win had been one of the strangest in Hollywood history. Sandra Bullock found herself nominated for both a Razzie Award for Worst Actress for a film called All About Steve and an Academy Award for Best Actress for The Blind Side. She became one of the first actors in history to win both awards in the same weekend. She showed up in person to accept the Razzie, pulling a wagon full of DVDs to give away to the audience. The moment was funny and self-deprecating, classic Bullock. But the Oscar that followed days later was serious. The Blind Side had changed her life in ways that no one understood at the time. Bullock almost did not make the film. She admitted later that she did not trust the script because it seemed too schmaltzy and soft to be true. She worried that the story of a wealthy white family adopting a homeless black teenager would come across as preachy or fake. Then she met the real Leigh Ann Tuohy, the woman she would be playing. The meeting did not go the way she expected. She was terrified of Leigh Ann, sitting in her house with her little hands folded in her lap, unable to speak. Leigh Ann was tough, with a no-nonsense Southern attitude, and Bullock was intimidated, but also inspired. She became obsessed with authenticity, wearing Leigh Ann's specific makeup and even her exact nail polish during filming. The film reminded Bullock of something important. She told the media that there was no race, no religion, and no class system that made anyone better than anyone else. She said that everyone was deserving of love. Those words were not just lines from an interview. They became the philosophy that guided her decision to adopt. The process began 4 years before the public ever found out. Bullock and her then-husband, Jesse James, started the grueling adoption process around 2006. They chose New Orleans as the birthplace of their future child. Bullock had felt a deep connection to the city after Hurricane Katrina, and she wanted to give back in a meaningful way. The baby, a boy, was born in New Orleans. They named him Louis Bardo Bullock. The name Louis was for Louis Armstrong, the legendary jazz musician. Bullock revealed that the first time she held the baby, she heard What a Wonderful World playing in her mind. The middle name, Bardo, was a Tibetan Buddhist term referring to the state between death and rebirth. It was a spiritual acknowledgement of the journey Louis had taken from foster care to finding his mother. They brought Louis home in January of 2010. That was 2 months before the Oscars and 2 months before the tabloids would expose the infidelity that would end their marriage. For those 2 months, the secret was safe. The adoption was so covert that it has been described as one of the most impressive public relations moves by any A-list celebrity in years. Bullock controlled the chaos by telling almost no one. When asked why she did not announce the adoption immediately, she said that photographers were waiting outside her home 24 hours a day. She did not want Louis pulled into that. She wanted him all to herself for those first few months. Only a handful of family and friends knew the truth. Among them were Jesse James's 3 children from previous relationships. Bullock noted that the children, who were teenagers and preteens at the time, understood the gravity of the secret and helped keep it to protect the baby. Lee Ann Tuohy visited Bullock and the baby just days before the news broke. She later described baby Louis as having eyes that held wisdom, and she admitted that she could stare at him all day. Then came the Oscar speech. On March 7, 2010, just weeks after bringing Louis home, Sandra Bullock won the Academy Award for Best Actress. Her acceptance speech was beautiful and moving, but no one understood the full meaning of her words at the time. She thanked the film for what it was about for her, which was the mothers who take care of the babies and the children, no matter where they come from. Everyone was deserving of love. The speech was a coded love letter to her new son, hidden in plain sight. The rumor that has persisted for years is that Bullock kept green baby socks in her Oscar clutch that night. She admitted later that the socks kept falling out on the red carpet and strangers kept handing them back to her, having no idea that they belonged to the infant waiting for her at home. The adoption was a secret miracle, but the man who had helped her bring Louis home was about to be exposed as something else entirely. The fallout that followed would leave Sandra Bullock heartbroken, alone, and fighting to protect her son from a scandal she never saw coming. The fallout no one saw coming. Sandra Bullock and Jesse James had married on July 16, 2005, in a private ceremony in Santa Barbara. She was 41, he was 35. He came with baggage that she accepted without hesitation. He had 3 children from previous marriages, and Bullock became their stepmother immediately upon saying "I do." She spoke about motherhood with a warmth that surprised some of her fans. At a press conference in 2007, she said that she had children, that she married into a family with children, and that she loved those children. She had embraced a ready-made family, but the man at the center of that family was not who she thought he was. The scandal broke just days after Bullock won her Oscar. The victory, which should have been the highlight of her career, became the backdrop for the deepest humiliation of her personal life. Touch magazine released a cover story titled "The Ultimate Betrayal," and the article centered on an interview with a woman named Michelle McGee, who claimed she had an 11-month affair with James. She said the encounters took place inside his West Coast chopper shop, and she provided text messages as proof. According to McGee, James had led her to believe that he and Bullock were separated at the time, but they were not. The story did not stop with one woman. After McGee came forward, others followed. An exotic dancer named Melissa Smith claimed she had a 2-year secret romance with James, beginning in 2006. A photographer named Brigitte Daguerre claimed James had hired her for a photo shoot and then exchanged explicit messages with her for a year. She said they had been together 4 times. But none of these claims were as shocking as a report about a former female executive at West Coast Choppers who had accused James of making repeated inappropriate advances towards her in 2007. The matter was settled for $725,000. James neither admitted nor denied the allegations. In the end, as many as 11 women came forward claiming they had affairs with James during his marriage to Bullock. On March 18, 2010, James issued a public apology. He called the vast majority of the claims untrue and unfounded, but he also said that there was only one person to blame, and that was him. He said he deserved everything bad that was coming his way. He expressed sadness over the pain and embarrassment caused to Bullock and his children. He hoped they could find it in their hearts to forgive him. However, the apology was too little and far too late. Bullock acted quickly. Warner Brothers issued a statement that she would not attend the British premiere of The Blind Side due to unforeseen personal reasons. According to a source quoted by People magazine, she left the home she shared with James on Monday, March 15, 2010. Just 8 days after the Oscars. Then she saw the photograph that would extinguish any hope of reconciliation. It was a picture of James wearing a cap linked to a notorious military regime. Bullock later said that racism, anti-Semitism, and any other thing like that had no place in her life. The man she thought she had married felt the same. She could not recognize Jesse, and she had never seen that side of him before. James checked himself into a rehabilitation facility, claiming he was addicted to intimacy and needed help. He cried in front of cameras and said that Sandy was the love of his life. In an ABC News interview, he reflected that he believed he wanted to get caught, suggesting his actions were a form of self-sabotage. The public was not moved. The tears felt performative, and the apologies rang hollow. Bullock filed for divorce in Travis County, Texas, on April 23, 2010, approximately 5 weeks after leaving the marital home. The marriage was described in court filings as insupportable because of discord, with no expectation of reconciliation. In the same filing, Bullock revealed something that no one knew. The couple had adopted a baby boy named Lewis just before their separation. The news of the adoption had been kept secret for months. Now it was public. In his ABC interview, James said that watching Bullock with Louie was one of the most amazing things he had ever seen. He said she was like a fish in water, and that as soon as she put that baby in her hands, it was automatic and amazing. He acknowledged that the decision to let his wife end their marriage and continue the adoption on her own had been the hardest. He asked the public not to judge Sandy for the things he had done, because she had done no wrong. The divorce was finalized by the end of June 2010. It was remarkably fast, only 2 months after filing. There were no arguments back and forth in court, no legal filings that dragged on for years. Under Texas law, a spouse must be married for at least 10 years to receive spousal support. James had been married to Bullock for only 5. He had no rights to alimony. The couple filed their divorce papers under seal, keeping the details private. Bullock was 45 when the marriage ended. James was 41. The court confirmed that Lewis would live with Bullock, who would proceed as a single adoptive parent. The man who had been there from the beginning of the adoption process was gone. The woman who had embraced his children as her own was now raising a child alone. But Sandra Bullock was not done with love. A new man would enter her life, and he would become the father that Lewis had been waiting for. The father she gave to Lewis. For 5 years after her divorce, Sandra Bullock raised Lewis on her own. She was careful about who she let into their lives, protective in a way that she had not been before. The betrayal she had suffered made her cautious, and the little boy who called her mom was the priority. Then, in January of 2015, she planned a birthday party for Lewis. He was turning 5, and she needed a photographer. Someone recommended a man named Bryan, a model-turned-photographer, handsome and quiet, with kind eyes. She hired him for the job, but she also made him sign a non-disclosure agreement. The divorce had taught her that trust had to be earned, and even then, it came with safeguards. The photographs from the party were beautiful. Bryan captured Louie's joy without being intrusive, and Sandra noticed something about the way he moved through the room. He was patient, he was kind, and he did not try to be the center of attention. They did not start dating immediately. The transition from professional to personal took months, a slow dance that allowed both of them to be sure. But by the end of 2015, they were a couple. Bryan had entered their lives quietly, and he would leave a mark that no one could have predicted. By the time Sandra met Bryan, she had already begun the process of adopting a second child, a daughter named Layla. The adoption was complex and private, and Sandra did not want anything to interfere with it. She remembered the phone call she made to Bryan when she was leaving for Toronto to bring Layla home. She reminded him about the non-disclosure agreement he had signed for Lewis's birthday party. She told him that it still held because she was coming home with a child. The family that formed was unconventional. Sandra defined their unit as sharing 2 children, Lewis and Layla, plus Bryan's older daughter from a previous relationship, a young woman named Skylar. 3 children in one house with no marriage certificate. Sandra was adamant that she did not need a piece of paper to be a devoted partner and a devoted mother. She said that she did not need to be told to weather a storm with a good man. She had already weathered the worst storm of her life, and she had come out the other side with clearer eyes. Bryan was not Jesse. She said he was patient and gentle, and even called him a saint. He had evolved on a level that she said was not human. She described him as the example she wanted her children to have. That was high praise from a woman who had been burned by the man she once trusted. She acknowledged that they did not always agree. He was very Christian, she said, and her views were different. But she respected that he provided an example, even when she disagreed. Co-parenting was hard because she wanted to do everything herself, but she had learned to sit back and listen. In December of 2021, Sandra appeared on Jada Pinkett Smith's Red Table Talk and made a statement that surprised many people. She said that she had found the love of her life. She made a point of distinguishing Bryan from her previous marriage. She said she had gone through the divorce process and then she found the love of her life. Sandra Bullock, who had every reason to be careful about love, had fallen hard. Behind the scenes, something terrible was happening. Bryan had been privately battling amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, the neurodegenerative disease also known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The diagnosis likely came around August of 2020, but Bryan chose to keep it private. He did not want the pity or the public scrutiny. He just wanted to live whatever time he had left with the people he loved. Sandra became his primary caregiver. Her sister, Gesine, revealed after Bryan's death that ALS was a cruel disease, but there was comfort in knowing that he had the best of caretakers in her amazing sister. Sandra assembled a team of nurses to help look after him in their home. She put her career on hold. A source told Page 6 that her decision to take time off after the Lost City in 2022 was specifically to care for Bryan. Her agents were extremely protective of her during that period. No one said a word about her time off. They all understood what she was doing and why. Bryan Randall died peacefully on August 5, 2023. He was 57 years old. The family released a statement asking for privacy to grieve and to come to terms with the impossibility of saying goodbye. On what would have been Bryan's 58th birthday, December 30th, 2023, Sandra fulfilled a promise. She traveled to the Snake River in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, to release his ashes. Her sister shared the moment on Instagram, captioning a video of the icy river with a simple message. "Happy birthday, Bri. Sandy brought you to the river just as she promised." The image was quiet and powerful, a final act of love from a woman who had learned to love again after being broken. Following his death, Sandra took a career break to heal. A source told People that after everything she went through with Bryan, she needed time to care for herself. She needed to ensure that she and her kids were in the best possible place. She had already foreshadowed this decision in a Good Morning America interview, saying that she did not want to create anything that took her away from just being present. The man who came into her life as a photographer had left as a father, a partner, and a hero. Bryan Randall gave Lewis something that no adoption paperwork ever could. He showed the boy what a good man looked like. When he died, Lewis lost the only dad he had ever really known. The grief was heavy, but it was not the end of the story. Because the boy who once needed protecting has grown into someone his mother never expected, and the way he is living now is not what anyone imagined. The shocking reality of Lewis today. For years, Sandra Bullock kept her son Lewis out of the spotlight. She shielded him from cameras, refused to let interviewers ask about him, and built a wall of privacy around their home. Fans saw glimpses of him as a toddler, a small boy with dark hair and bright eyes. Then the glimpses stopped. Lewis disappeared from public view entirely. So when Sandra was spotted in Los Angeles with a tall young man in May of 2026, fans did a double take. The boy standing next to her was not a boy at all. He was a young man, tall and lean, with his mother's smile and a presence that made people stop and stare. Louis Bardo Bullock was 16 years old, and he had grown up in ways that no one expected. The photographs from that May outing spread quickly across social media. Lewis was dressed casually in gray sweatpants and a black hoodie, carrying shopping bags as he walked alongside his mother. The most striking detail was his height. Sandra Bullock is 5 feet 7 inches tall, which is above average for a woman. Lewis towered over her. At one point during the outing, he rested his hands on her shoulders, an affectionate gesture that melted the hearts of fans who had been following their story for years. One fan wrote that she could not believe how big he had grown. The comment was simple, but it captured what everyone was thinking. The little boy who had arrived home in a baby carrier was now a young man. Sandra has always been careful about what she shares regarding Louis's personality, but over the years, small details have slipped out. She describes him as her 78-year-old son, a playful way of saying that he has an old soul. She has compared him to Shecky Greene, a comedian known for his witty, wisecracking style. The comparison is odd and specific, which makes it feel true. Louis is not a typical teenager. He is wise, kind, and super sensitive, according to his mother. She has also called him a foodie, someone who appreciates good meals in a way that his sister Layla does not. The two children are very different, Sandra has said, and she loves them both for who they are. The moment Sandra was handed Louis for the first time, she felt something that she has never forgotten. She said that there was a spiritual bigness to him. She knew immediately that this child was special. She also knew that she did not want to mess it up. She told an interviewer that she hoped she would not ruin that spiritual bigness with her own mistakes. The fear of failing as a parent has been a constant theme in her interviews about Louis. That fear took on a new dimension as Louis grew older. In a 2022 interview with CBS Sunday Morning that resurfaced in 2025, Sandra spoke openly about her worries for her son as a young black man in America. She cried during the interview, her voice breaking as she talked about hundreds of years of mothers not being able to freely enjoy the birth of a child. She spoke about the fear that comes when a son becomes a young man and the loss that mothers have faced for generations. Sandra acknowledged something that many white mothers do not. She said that white mothers have not had to worry in the same way that mothers of color have. She called out her own racial privilege while expressing solidarity with mothers who have lived with that fear their entire lives. She said that once Louis leaves her home, she cannot follow him. She cannot be there to protect him. All she can do is prepare him and hope that she has done enough. This awareness has shaped the way she parents. She is protective, but she is also honest. She does not shield Louis from the realities of the world. She teaches him how to navigate them. She wants him to be confident and kind, but she also wants him to be careful. It is a delicate balance, and she does not always get it right. But she keeps trying. In April of 2026, Sandra spoke at the CNBC Changemakers Summit about her return to acting. She laid down a non-negotiable rule. She would only make films when her children were out of school. She said that she was not going to sacrifice her children's time or her time with her children for any project. She had learned from her years away from the industry that being present for her kids mattered more than any role. She acknowledged that her two children might be happy when she was gone for work, but she would not be happy being away from them. She said she couldn't bear to see them struggle or need something that she could not facilitate. She also recognized that she had a luxury that many parents do not. She could afford to take time off. She could afford to say no to projects that did not fit her schedule. She understood the grief and the angst that parents feel when they are at work and wishing they were somewhere else. She acknowledged that most people do not have the same flexibility, but she also pointed out that women are capable of doing 15 things at once and getting them done. Her commitment to privacy has not wavered. In that same 2022 CBS interview, she explicitly asked the network not to air photos of her children. She does not want them to be targets. She does not want their faces plastered across the internet for strangers to dissect. The request was respected, but it also highlighted the constant tension she feels between her public life and her private one. In May of 2026, Sandra broke her social media silence for Mother's Day. She posted a throwback photograph of Louis and Layla, a rare glimpse into her family life. The caption was simple: "To all the mamas, no matter how you came to be, Happy Mother's Day." The post was liked and shared millions of times. Fans were thrilled to see the children, even in a photograph from years ago. But Sandra made it clear that this was an exception, not a new rule. She had only joined Instagram the month before, and she had done so to promote an upcoming film project. The Mother's Day post was a rare gift to fans who had followed her career for decades. The little boy who arrived home in January of 2010 wrapped in a blanket and full of promise, is now a young man. He towers over his mother. He has his own personality, his own quirks, his own path to walk. Sandra Bullock has done everything she can to prepare him for that walk. She has protected him, loved him, and taught him to be kind. Fans who have watched his story unfold from the beginning can only stand back and marvel at how far he has come. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more updates.